Hi, my name is Beth,
And I'm Regina.
and this is Cultural Exchange Conversations. Now, Regina, when were you an exchange student?
I was a foreign exchange student from Mexico, and it was almost 7 years ago.
And you happen to be my cultural exchange student.
Yes, I was your first foreign exchange student.
And how long ago, or you said how long ago it was, but how old were you?
I was 15 at the time when I came here.
And what grade were you, what grade had you just left in Mexico, and what grade were you entering into in Mankato?
So the last grade before coming here was 8th grade. And then I came here as a freshman in high school, so 9th grade.
And from what I understand is at that time you had been the youngest exchange student at Mankato West High School.
Yes.
Do you think in your experience that you were affected any differently by participating in the program so young?
I actually think it was better for me because everyone was new in high school. So nobody knew, like, the teachers, or groups were, like, starting to form, kind of. So, no.
So you could have just potentially been a student coming in from a different district, opening,
Yeah.
enrolling, and not necessarily a cultural exchange student, since you were all coming in during the same year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also had orientation, all of us, so that was a way to, like, make friends or, like, meet people.
And did you know anybody else that was going to your school in Mexico that was also a cultural exchange student?
No, but then when I went back after my foreign exchange year, we had someone for England coming for a year in my grade.
So you had somebody from England coming to your school
In Mexico.
In Mexico.
Yes.
And at that same time, were there students from your school in Mexico that were going to other countries?
Yes, we always have a few people going on foreign exchange programs. I met two guys. One went to Atlanta and the other one went to Canada, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't uncommon for somebody within your school to go on a cultural exchange,
No, it was pretty common actually too.
or at least not uncommon.
Yeah.
So what were some differences that you experienced coming from Mexico to Minnesota?
Quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should start with when you first got to our house,
Okay.
and we live in an old 1885 house.
Yeah.
The doors hadn't been used in your room very often since it was an extra room, and they got stuck. So your first night here,
I
you
got
couldn't
locked
get
up.
out of your
And-
bedroom.
yeah.
Explain what you were thinking when that happened.
Yeah, no, well, I didn't know the door didn't work, so I just like closed it. And then the next morning I was trying to get out, and I couldn't open it for the life of me. So I had to text you and Anna, my host sister. Nobody could listen to me, so I started yelling. I was like, "Oh my god! Like, did they lock the doors for everyone, or like what's going on?" So,
But it
yeah.
was something that you were able to overcome.
Yes,
Your
I
first
was
obstacle.
able to overcome that. Yeah.
And when you originally arrived, it was a few weeks actually before school starts, which
Yeah.
was a little different than most programs, because most programs want you to arrive
Like 2
really
weeks.
soon to when school begins. So we had some time to go to South Dakota together
Yeah.
and see Mount Rushmore. And you slept on the entire way to Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
But when you opened your eyes, what were you thinking when you got into the Dakotas?
Well, I actually had no idea where we were. I think Jay asked me. And he was like, "Do you know where we are?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea that we are in another state." Yeah, and I woke up looking at a buffalo out my window, so that was fun. Yeah.
And what was your impression of Mount Rushmore?
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was going to be bigger for some reason, but it was still great. I had a lot of fun. The park was beautiful.
And then what was the funnest experience, the most enjoyable experience you had on that trip?
Probably that place that it's called Cosmos. Something that most of you guys don't remember, but the first night at that hotel, I went to take a shower, and when I came out, the three girls, so Anna, Heidi, and Clara, started dancing and singing in front of me because they learned it in a camp, summer camp or something like that, and they started like dancing, and I was so confused. Okay,
Well, what's going on with
What's
these
going
kids?
on?
They lost their minds.
Yeah, but that was very fun.
And at that particular hotel too, the pool, I remember smelling really heavily of chlorine. So maybe you're like, I don't know what. Maybe they soaked in too many fumes, and they made them go crazy.
Well, and one thing I remember, well, I'm just remembering now, that somehow Heidi and Clara got very good very fast on trying to understand what I was trying to say. Like, if I didn't know something in English, they got very good at guessing what I needed to communicate to people. Because I remember at that hotel we went to the pool, and then two boys came to us, and they were just trying to get to know us. And I could not speak because I was nervous, but Heidi somehow like had a whole conversation of like what I was trying to say.
Do you remember how old Heidi and Clara were, the younger girls at that
So
time?
I was 15 and Clara was 8, pretty sure, and then Heidi was
would have
9.
been
Yeah.
So they were still pretty
Yeah.
pretty young yet. So at that point, what were like the cultural differences that you struggled with? You struggled a little bit, it sounds like, with communication, but you were able to communicate enough to...
Yeah, I mean, my English was pretty decent when I got here. I just thought that people talk very fast.
And in Minnesota, people do
Minnesota,
talk very
yeah.
fast.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing. Another cultural shock. Oh, yeah, like taking off your shoes when you go inside a house. We don't do that in Mexico. So that was... It's a small one, but it was just like something that I didn't know
to be
happened.
aware of.
Yeah, and I think people are more cold, not cold, but like they're not as affectionate as in Mexico.
Physically, at least.
Yeah, like
We don't like to touch and hug very
Yes,
much.
you guys don't hug or like. Well, to say hi in Mexico, we like kiss on the cheek. And you guys definitely don't do that.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I guess those were like the two main ones, and I knew this was gonna happen, but like the eating schedules, it's just different in Mexico than here in America.
Yeah, so what is your eating schedule in Mexico typically look like, and what is the eating schedule difference?
So in Mexico we have pretty much 5 meals. So it's breakfast in the morning, then a little snack, then lunch, but it's at like 3 p.m. and it's like the largest meal of the day. And then we have another little snack, and then we have dinner, but dinner is like light dinner. Like you'll eat something small.
Okay.
And then go to bed. And that's like around like 8 or 9 p.m.
Yeah, and here we typically have breakfast and lunch, and the biggest meal is like the
Dinner,
supper, and that really changes, I think, when you have a family, because if sports and things get done early, you might eat closer to 5:30, and if sports run late, if there's meets and games, then we might eat closer to 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really hard, even in our family, is that there never seems to be a set schedule for supper. It's always changing, and that's still actually problematic sometimes for our family, because we don't always get to eat together when everybody's running everywhere. And you too had gone to a private school in Mexico that was relatively small, and you ended up going to a larger school where there was like between 300 and 350 kids per grade.
Yes.
So what were you had been expecting that difference, but was there any fears or problems transitioning from a small school to a big school?
Yes, because my school in Mexico was K through 12, so I had been there since I was 3 years old. So we pretty much everyone knew each other. You know, like
You know the problem kids, you know the good
yes,
kids, you know everyone.
You already have your friends and everything. I've never had to change schools in my life. So
You did very well.
So I didn't know how to make new friends. But then I came here and it was like 300 people, but also I like kind of just put in my mind like someone has to like me. Like there's so many kids that someone has to like me.
So did you find it difficult to make friends here?
No, actually, I think a lot of people were impressed that I was a young foreign exchange student.
Yeah.
And not a lot of I think that in the high school that I went, West, most foreign exchange students were from Europe. And I think I was like one of the very first Mexicans. I've never known of any other Mexican going to West. So, so I think like people were like curious to like get to know me. So a lot of people like came to me. But
Who are you?
yeah,
I haven't seen you before.
yeah, and obviously I didn't like I wasn't like super popular or anything, but it was fairly easy to make friends. People were pretty open.
And when we were communicating with you, we suggested that you do a sport or activity because culturally here you typically make friends through extracurricular activities. And one thing that you had always participated in back home was dance.
Yes.
So right away, and dance isn't offered at school. Some schools do have like competitive dance teams or cheerleading teams, and
Yeah.
West at that time did not offer those things. So you just went to like a ballet studio, which was walking distance from our house.
Yeah.
And did you feel that being a part of an extracurricular activity prior to starting school helped you make a few friends?
Oh, definitely, because I met Emma the very first day, and she turned out to be in my grade for the school. And meeting her, for orientation we went, and then everybody had teams already that they had designed before. And then Emma recognized me that day, and then she suggested that I join their team, so that was great for her. And then the first week of school, when I didn't have any friends, and the first time I went to lunch, I sat with the dance girls because they recognized me, and I asked if I could sit with them, and they said yes. They were very nice. So I sat with them the very first week, and then I had other friends, but they were always nice to me. So it was very nice to have someone to at least like talk to.
But you had to make that initial encounter where you're like, oh, I know you from dance. Can I sit here? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And then as time went on from your classes that you went to and other activities, you did make other sets of friends, but
Yes.
you always stayed
Oh,
friendly with the original.
yes, I did always stay friendly with the original dance girls. Yeah, and I used to see them like every day too. So.
And when you first came here, it was, you said 2016, right?
Yes, 2016.
And now it's 2023.
23. Yeah.
And not everyone stays friends with high school friends, but are you still friends with some of your high school friends from years ago?
Yes, I talk to Emma mostly. I talk to her all the time. And then I also have Alexa, some people that go to the same university as I do.
And you haven't mentioned, but
Yeah.
you were a high school exchange student and you came back to school, University of Minnesota. So where are you going to school right now?
Oh, yeah, so I go to University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and my major is material science and engineering. I'm a junior.
So you liked it enough to come back.
I liked it enough to come back. I loved Minnesota and the cold.
And the cold. And I do remember that in 2016-17, it was a relatively warm winter. And I can
Yes.
remember in March, it was a warm day, but there was still snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And we went outside and took a picture
Me
of you in shorts and short sleeves standing on top of a snow pile.
Yes.
And we sent it to your parents, and they thought you were going to get sick.
Yes, they thought I was gonna get sick because it was very cold outside in their minds. But
Yeah. But you're like, no, I kind of like
I'm
the
fine.
cold.
Yeah, I love the cold.
You became a true Minnesotan in such a short period of time.
Apparently, yes.
Yes. And so during that time that you were a freshman in high school, did you ever get homesick?
I think. I mean, I always missed home, but I was having such a great time, to be honest. And I think, like, the only time that I had, like, maybe a little bit more of a hard time was, like, during the holidays, just because it was the holidays. But not really. I was never, like, I want to go home.
And I think that when you were here, too, you had school, you had dance and activities,
Yeah.
and then you had studying because you did have some challenging classes.
Yes.
So you were also just very busy, so there wasn't as much time to really, I would feel like there's
Yeah.
not time to get homesick.
Yeah, not really. And then, like, if I had free time, I would, like, go out with my friends or, like, hang out with here. I don't know. Like, I never had, like, a hard time, to be honest.
And I remember when we initially went to the counselor's office to set your schedule, because you had to have some classes that you needed to take, and that schedule was set, but you also got to choose some additional co-curricular classes. So can you tell me about some of your favorite classes that you had the opportunity to take here that maybe you were going to be offered?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a great cultural difference, I guess. Like in Mexico, they always just give us our schedule and everyone like has the same classes. You cannot like take electives. But here it was amazing knowing that I could like choose some of my classes. And oh, remember they wanted me to take like child development, I think, and I do not like children. So like no, I do not want that. And I chose woodworking, and it was amazing. I love that class.
Yes, and the teacher in that class picked you as like a star student, and we got to go to a special meal to celebrate your success in woodworking.
Yes, I did love woodworking.
And I was really impressed because when we went to the counselors, even I was not sure by that time how good your English was, but yet you were very firm, even though you were quite young.
Yeah.
That these are the classes I'm going to take.
Yeah.
And that was really impressive to, one, come from a different country and then have a slight language barrier and also be young and yet be like, nope, this is what I want.
Yes. Yeah.
And then everybody was able to work together to accommodate that schedule. And I guess just to finish out, what if somebody is thinking of becoming an exchange student from Mexico to a different country? What suggestions would you give them, and what suggestions would you give a host family hosting exchange student from Mexico?
Well, suggestions for like the students who want to become like foreign exchange students in another country. I would say like just be open to like make new. Oh yeah, always be open, and I always say hi to new people because eventually someone is gonna like
Someone's gonna like you.
Someone's gonna like you. Yeah, and like most people want to get to know you, honestly. So yeah, just always be open and like adapt to the family because they're all also trying to like get to know you and like know your culture. So obviously nobody's gonna be perfect, but
And for a host family, what suggestions would you have for a host family hosting a cultural exchange student, or maybe in particular an exchange student from Mexico?
I don't know, talk to them and just be open to learning about their culture and do fun activities with them. Or just, yeah.
Have family meals talk. And I think that
Yeah.
one thing that I learned most about hosting you is that North American culture is very similar.
Yes.
There wasn't a whole lot of cultural difference
Yes.
between our understanding and your understanding. It really did seem to blend really well together within our household.
Yeah, which I was also surprised with. Like, most of our culture was, like, pretty similar. Like, obviously we have differences, but
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't hard to adapt.
Yeah.
That's what I learned.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I hope you learned something from this cultural exchange conversation.